The jungle was
Remember,
alive with sound,
the
a
light
thousand
stream will
voices of
guide you
strange
through the
creatures hidden
ancient
among
trees.
glowing leaves. Mist drifted low over the roots of ancient trees, and the air was heavy with the smell of damp earth. Sergeant Daniel Hayes moved carefully, his boots sinking into the moss with each step. He was alone, separated from his squad during the chaos of the battle that had scattered humans across this alien world. His rifle was nearly out of charge, his armor scratched and cracked. He pressed a hand against his side where a gash burned, every breath sharp with pain. He had been trained to face enemies in deserts, cities, even frozen moons, but nothing like this. The jungle seemed alive, watching him, waiting. His vision swam, and he leaned against a massive trunk, trying to keep himself from collapsing. That was when he heard the soft footsteps behind him. He raised his weapon, but the figure that stepped out of the mist made him lower it in shock. She was unlike any alien he had seen before. Her skin shimmered pale under the dim light, with faint traces of silver lines across it. Her hair was long, flowing like blue fire down her back, and her ears tapered elegantly to sharp points. She wore a form-fitting uniform of black and white, marked with strange insignias. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with menace, but with curiosity. She moved closer, her expression calm yet strangely warm. Daniel tried to speak, but his throat was dry. "You're not here to kill me, are you?" The alien tilted her head, her lips curving into a smile. Her voice, when it came, was smooth and melodic. "No, you are injured. I am a healer." She knelt before him without hesitation, her hands moving with practiced care as she examined the wound on his side. "You are human, strange, yet strong." Daniel let out a weak laugh, wincing as pain shot through him. "Yeah, strong enough to get myself lost." He watched her work, noticing the strange tools at her belt, the soft glow of medical devices she carried. Her touch was gentle yet sure, and for the first time since the battle began, he felt the edge of fear ease from his chest as she worked. He tried to keep the silence light. "So, what do I call you? Nurse? Doctor? Or just mysterious jungle angel?" The alien's eyes flicked up to meet his. "I serve the Queen. I am her nurse, sworn to heal and protect those under her care." Daniel chuckled, shaking his head. "Of course. Figures I'd run into royalty's personal medic while bleeding out in the woods." His humor was tired, but it kept him awake. As she wrapped his side with a glowing bandage that sealed the wound, he muttered without thinking, "Thanks, dear. I mean it." The alien froze, her hands pausing mid-motion. Her head lifted slowly, and her smile deepened. "Dear," she repeated softly, as if testing the word. Then she leaned closer, her voice low and steady. "So you accept?" Daniel blinked at her. "Accept what?" Her fingers brushed lightly against his arm, and her gaze locked with his. "Your vow. You have spoken the words. You called me as your mate. In my people's law, that cannot be undone." She smiled wider, but her tone was not mocking, it was filled with certainty. "You are mine now." Daniel's mouth fell open. He had meant it as a joke, just a tired, half-delirious slip of humor. But the look in her eyes told him she believed every word. His heart pounded, confusion mixing with disbelief. Wait, hold on, what? But she was already rising, supporting him with surprising strength. "You will live," she said softly, as though it was no longer just a promise of healing, but something deeper. She looked into the mist as if she had claimed more than just a patient. "My mate survives." And as the jungle stirred around them, Daniel realized his joke had just bound him to something far greater and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The jungle path seemed endless, lit only by faint glimmers of alien fireflies drifting between twisted roots. Daniel leaned heavily on the nurse's arm as she guided him forward. Each step was a battle against exhaustion, but her presence steadied him. She moved with confidence, never hesitating, as if the forest itself bowed to her will. He finally broke the silence. So let me get this straight. You think I'm your mate? Because of what I said? The nurse glanced at him, her blue hair catching the glow of the strange insects. Not think. I know. Your words are sacred. When a male calls a female dear, in my people's tongue, it is a vow of bond. No warrior may break it. No queen may deny it. It is law. Daniel groaned. Great, just my luck. Out of all the planets in the galaxy, I end up on the one where sarcasm counts as marriage. She tilted her head, puzzled. Sarcasm? It's when you say something as a joke. Not serious. Her eyes narrowed, her smile lingering but sharper now. You dare call me a joke? Daniel raised his hands quickly, wincing at the pain in his side. No, I didn't mean it like that. I just look where I come from. Yes, dear, is something a man says when he's teasing, not promising forever. For a moment, she studied him as though weighing his soul. Then she gave a soft laugh, almost musical. Strange human. Your words may be light, but your spirit is not. You spoke, and I accept. Daniel sighed, muttering under his breath. Fantastic. I'm married to an alien nurse. My mom would be so proud. The nurse smiled again, but her expression shifted when she noticed movement ahead. Her hand went to the weapon at her side, a sleek curved blade that shimmered with faint energy. She whispered, "Stay behind me." Figures emerged from the mist-tall aliens armored in black, their faces hidden by masks carved like snarling beasts. Their eyes glowed red, and each carried a weapon forged from living metal. Daniel could feel the hostility pouring from them even before they spoke. One of the warriors stepped forward, pointing at him. Human, he should not live. He defiles our law. The nurse stood tall, her body between Daniel and the warriors. He is under my care. He is my chosen mate. You will not touch him. Laughter echoed among the warriors, harsh and mocking. Mate? With a weak off-worlder? You shame yourself, healer. Daniel whispered, This doesn't sound like a friendly reunion. The nurse whispered back, Do not speak. Let me shield you. Then she raised her voice, steady and fierce. He spoke the vow. By law, his bond is mine. If you defy it, you defy the queen herself. The warriors hesitated, shifting uneasily. The law was not something lightly ignored. Yet their leader growled. The queen may hear of this, but the jungle has its own law. Before Daniel could react, the warriors advanced, circling. He tried to lift his rifle, but the nurse pressed it down gently. No, stay still. They will test me. And then she moved. Her blade flashed with light as she struck, parrying one warrior's spear. Another lunged, but she twisted gracefully, cutting across his armor with a burst of sparks. Daniel could only stare. She wasn't just a nurse. She was trained for battle. Every movement was precise, every strike decisive. Still, there were too many. One warrior swung low, knocking her to the ground. Daniel's instinct screamed. He raised his rifle and fired, the blast throwing the attacker back into the shadows. Silence followed. The warriors stepped back, shocked that the wounded human had fought. The leader hissed, pointing at him. He interferes. He is not weak. The nurse rose, brushing dirt from her uniform. She looked at Daniel, her smile proud. See, my mate stands with me. Even wounded, he has courage. The warriors whispered among themselves, uncertain. Finally, their leader spat onto the ground. We will take this to the queen. If she accepts him, so be it. But if not, both of you will pay. With that, they melted back into the jungle, leaving only the echo of their threat. Daniel slumped against a tree, breathing hard. Well, that could have gone worse. The nurse sheathed her blade and knelt beside him. You showed them your spirit. That matters. They will carry word of you now. Daniel rubbed his face. Great. So not only am I accidentally married, but now I'm also on trial with an alien queen. This day just keeps getting better. The nurse's hand rested gently on his arm. Do not fear. I will stand by you. You are mine and I am yours. Whatever comes, we face it together. For the first time, Daniel saw not just the healer or the warrior, but the truth in her eyes. She wasn't mocking him. She wasn't playing. She believed in the bond, as real as blood, as sacred as breath. And deep inside, though he didn't want to admit it, part of him wanted to believe it too. The alien city rose from the jungle like something out of a dream. Towering structures of black stone and living vines spiraled upward, glowing with pale light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Bridges arched between the towers, and strange winged creatures circled above. To Daniel, it felt like stepping into another world, half-ancient temple, half-futuristic fortress. The nurse guided him through the gates, her posture proud, her grip steady on his arm. Around them, alien eyes followed every step. Warriors in armor stood at attention, servants hurried past with glowing orbs, and whispers rippled through the crowd. Daniel caught fragments of words he didn't understand, but the tone was clear: suspicion, disbelief, and curiosity. One voice spoke louder than the rest. That is him. The human who spoke the vow. Daniel muttered under his breath. Great, already famous. Just what I wanted. The nurse glanced at him, her expression unreadable. They will test you. Be ready. He tried to keep his voice light, though his stomach churned. Test me? What kind of test are we talking about? A math quiz? Push-ups? She didn't smile. The trial of honor. You must prove you are worthy of the bond. If you fail, the law breaks. They will strip the vow from me and kill you. Daniel stopped in his tracks. Wait, kill me? You forgot to mention that part. Her blue hair shimmered as she turned to face him. I did not forget. I chose not to tell you until now. Fear clouds the heart, but courage sharpens it. Before he could argue, guards appeared, surrounding them. They carried long staffs etched with glowing runes. Without a word, they led the pair into a vast chamber lit by fire and crystal. At the far end, seated upon a throne carved into the shape of a serpent, was the queen herself. She was taller than any alien Daniel had seen, her presence heavy as a storm. Her crown seemed to grow from her head like living branches, and her gown shimmered with threads of starlight. Her eyes were sharp, but not cruel, watchful, amused, as if she were looking at a puzzle she already knew the answer to. The nurse knelt instantly, lowering her head. Daniel hesitated, then awkwardly copied her, one knee creaking against the stone floor. The queen's voice filled the chamber, low and commanding. Rise, they obeyed. The queen's gaze lingered on Daniel, curious and amused. So this is the human who dares call my nurse dear. Daniel swallowed hard. Yeah. That was me. Totally an accident, though. A murmur of laughter echoed through the chamber. The queen raised a hand, silencing them. In our law, there are no accidents. Words are truth. If you speak them, they bind. You spoke. Now you must prove yourself. Daniel tried to keep his voice steady. And if I don't? The queen's smile was cold. Then your blood feeds the roots of our city. Daniel muttered, figures, under his breath. The queen gestured, and the guards moved aside, revealing a circle carved into the stone floor. Within it lay 3 objects, a spear, a shield, and a small bowl of glowing liquid dot. She explained. The trial of honor has 3 paths. Choose the spear, and you face combat against one of my warriors. Choose the shield, and you must endure a test of pain without faltering. Choose the bowl, and you must drink and speak truth with no lies. Choose carefully, human. Daniel stared at the objects. None of the choices sounded good. Fighting, he was still half-healed. Enduring pain, he already felt like he'd been stabbed by a truck. And drinking glowing alien liquid? That screamed bad idea. He glanced at the nurse. She met his eyes, her gaze steady, as if telling him silently, "Trust yourself." He took a deep breath, then walked forward. His hand hovered over the spear, then the shield, then the bowl. Finally, he grinned weakly. Well, when in doubt, go for honesty. He picked up the bowl. A collective gasp filled the chamber. The queen's eyebrows rose. Interesting. Most warriors choose the spear. Few choose truth. Daniel raised the bowl. The liquid shimmered, giving off a strange heat. He whispered to himself, "Here goes nothing," and drank. It burned like fire down his throat. But he forced it down. His chest tightened, his vision blurred, and suddenly he felt exposed, as if every secret in his mind had been dragged into the open. The queen's voice cut through the haze. "Human, do you love her? The one you called mate, speak truth." Daniel froze. His heart pounded. Did he? He barely knew her. She had saved his life, stood beside him, protected him. She was beautiful, strong, mysterious. But love? That was a heavy word. He glanced at the nurse. She watched him silently, her face unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know if I love her. But I know this, I trust her. She risked everything for me. She stood when others wanted me dead. And I don't want to leave her side. Not now, not ever." The chamber went silent. The queen's eyes narrowed, searching his face. The glowing liquid in the bowl pulsed, confirming the truth. Slowly, the queen leaned back in her throne, her expression unreadable. Then she laughed softly, the sound echoing like thunder. Honest, bold, foolish, human. She rose, her presence filling the chamber. Perhaps worthy. The guards shifted uneasily. The nurse let out a breath she had been holding, her lips curling into the faintest smile. Daniel lowered the bowl, his hands still trembling. "So, does that mean I passed?" The queen's smile widened, dangerous and amused. "You have not failed. That is enough for now." And Daniel realized that the trial was only the beginning. Asterisk night fell over the alien city, and the towers glowed like veins of fire in the dark. Daniel sat inside a chamber carved from stone and vine, its walls alive with faintly pulsing light. He leaned against the cool surface, trying to steady his breathing. The trial had left him exhausted, though the nurse never left his side. She moved around him with quiet focus, checking his wound again, her hands gentle yet firm. "You surprised them today," she said softly. "Few would have spoken as you did. Fewer still would have been believed." Daniel gave a tired laugh. "Surprised myself too. Honestly, I thought that drink was going to kill me before the queen had the chance." Her lips curved into a small smile. "You showed truth. That is strength." He stared at her for a moment, then shook his head. "I don't get it. Back home, words are cheap. Anyone can lie, anyone can make promises they don't mean. But here, I crack a joke, and suddenly I'm your mate for life. Doesn't that scare you?" Her smile faded, but her eyes softened. "No, because I believe you, even when you do not believe yourself." Before Daniel could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. The nurse stiffened, her hand reaching for her blade. The door opened, and a tall figure stepped inside. His armor was darker than night, his mask shaped like a snarling beast. Daniel recognized him, one of the warriors who had threatened them in the jungle. The warrior bowed his head slightly to the nurse, then spoke in a low voice. "There are whispers, healer. Not all are pleased with what the queen allowed. Some see the human as a danger, others as a weakness." His red eyes shifted to Daniel. "There are those who plan to remove him, quietly." Daniel frowned. "Remove me?" You mean kill me, right? Why can't anyone here just say things straight? The warrior ignored him. He turned to the nurse. You must keep him close. Watch every shadow. The rebels see this bond as a crack in our law. They will use it. The nurse's jaw tightened. Who leads them? But the warrior only shook his head. Names are not given so easily. Be ready. That is all I can say. With that, he slipped back into the darkness, vanishing as silently as he came. Daniel exhaled slowly. Fantastic. So I'm not just on trial anymore, I've got assassins on my back too. This keeps getting better. The nurse moved closer, her expression fierce. You are not alone. They will not touch you. Her certainty sent a strange warmth through him. But deep down, he knew she couldn't protect him forever. He wasn't a trained warrior like them. He was just a soldier who had stumbled into something far bigger than himself. That night, he tried to sleep, but the city never seemed to rest. He heard distant horns, the clash of metal, the whispers of voices moving through the halls. When sleep finally came, it was broken by a sharp noise. He opened his eyes to see a shadow standing above him. A blade glinted in the dim light, raised for the strike. Before Daniel could react, the nurse was there. Her blade met the assassins with a flash, sparks flying as the intruder hissed in rage. The fight was fast, brutal, too fast for Daniel to follow. The assassin darted like smoke, striking again and again. But the nurse countered each blow, her movements sharp and precise. Daniel grabbed for his rifle, aiming at the figure, but the nurse shouted, "No. If you fire, you strike me too." He froze, helpless as the battle raged inches away. Then the assassin slipped past her guard, the blade grazing Daniel's chestplate, sparks exploding. Pain shot through him as he stumbled back. The nurse roared, a sound Daniel had never heard from her before. Her blade swept low, cutting the assassin's leg, and in the same motion she drove her weapon into his chest. The figure collapsed with a strangled cry, dissolving into silence. Breathing hard, the nurse turned to Daniel. "Are you hurt?" He touched the burn on his armor, wincing. "Not badly, but I think I owe you." Again, she wiped the blood from her blade, her face unreadable. This was only the first. More will come. Daniel sank onto the bed, his hands shaking. "So what's the plan? Sit here and wait for the next guy with a knife?" Her eyes glimmered in the dim light. "No, we go to the Queen. She must know rebellion stirs." The next morning, they were summoned to the Grand Hall once more. But this time, the air was different. He could feel the tension in the city, like the jungle itself was holding its breath. Warriors lined the path, their faces grim-eyed as they entered. The Queen's gaze swept over them, sharp and heavy. She raised her hand, and the hall fell silent. "There are whispers," she said, her voice echoing. "Whispers of those who reject the bond of my nurse and this human. Whispers of rebellion." Daniel felt every eye turn toward him. The Queen's gaze lingered on him, not with kindness, but with cold calculation. She leaned forward, her crown gleaming in the firelight. If this bond is to stand, the human must prove himself again. Not in words this time, not in trials of honor, but in battle. Daniel's stomach dropped. Battle? Against who? The Queen's smile was sharp as a blade. "Against those who seek your death." The great hall rumbled with voices, warriors arguing in harsh tones while the Queen sat unmoving on her throne. The firelight flickered across her silver crown, making her eyes gleam like twin suns. Daniel stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by warriors who clearly wanted nothing more than to tear him apart. The nurse stood at his side, her blade still sheathed, but her hand resting on its hilt. Her presence was the only thing keeping him from bolting out of the hall. The Queen raised her hand and silence fell. Her voice carried across the chamber, cold and commanding. "The human has spoken truth. He has endured the law. Yet whispers rise. Some call him unworthy. Some call him a danger. Such unrest cannot be ignored. She leaned forward, her expression sharp. So I decide this. The human will face his enemies not in secret shadows, but in open battle. If he survives, his bond with my nurse is sealed by my throne. If he falls, then the whispers will end in silence. Daniel's mouth went dry. Wait, back up. Battle? Against who exactly? The Queen's smile was thin. Against those who seek your death. The rebels. They gather already. Tonight, the test begins. Daniel muttered, "Of course it does. Can't ever just talk things out like civilized people." The nurse touched his arm gently, her voice quiet but firm. "You are not alone. I will fight beside you." He gave her a weak smile. "Pretty sure they want me dead, not you. But thanks." The Queen gestured, and the guards escorted them out of the chamber into the night. The city had gathered in the central arena, a vast circle of stone and vine where torches burned bright. Thousands of alien eyes gleamed from the stands, their voices a low hum that rose with excitement. Daniel stood in the sand, his rifle in his hands, his side still aching. Across from him, armored figures stepped into the arena rebels, their faces hidden by masks, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The Queen's voice boomed from above. "The bond of the nurse and the human will be judged here. Let blood decide." A horn echoed, and the rebels charged. Daniel barely raised his rifle in time. He fired, the blast knocking one back, but two more rushed him. A spear slashed across his armor, sparks flying. He stumbled, only to see the nurse leap in front of him, her blade carving through an attacker with swift precision. The crowd roared, some cheering, others jeering. Daniel's heart pounded. Every instinct told him to run, but there was nowhere to go. So he fought. He ducked under a spear, slamming his rifle butt into the rebel's mask. The alien fell back, and Daniel fired again, the shot lighting the sand. Another came from behind, but the nurse caught the strike, twisting her blade until the rebel's weapon snapped. For a moment, they stood back to back, surrounded. Daniel gasped, "Remind me to never joke around again." The nurse gave a faint laugh, her eyes blazing. Too late for that. The battle raged on. Daniel fought with desperation, every move clumsy compared to the rebel's skill, but his stubbornness kept him standing. When one blade cut across his arm, he bit back a cry and pushed forward, slamming his shoulder into the attacker. He wasn't elegant, but he was relentless. The nurse flowed like water beside him, each strike graceful and lethal. Together, they pushed the rebels back, one step at a time, but the leader remained. A towering warrior stepped forward, his armor marked with crimson lines, his weapon a massive blade glowing with fire. The crowd hushed as he raised it high. "The human dies tonight." Daniel raised his rifle, but the leader struck it aside with one swing, the weapon shattering. Daniel stumbled back, defenseless. The nurse lunged to protect him, but the leader's strike knocked her to the ground, her blade skittering across the sand. Daniel's chest heaved. The warrior loomed over him, blade descending. For a split second, fear froze him. Then something inside snapped. He grabbed the broken rifle, swung it up, and jammed it against the warrior's chest. The shard of glowing metal pierced between the armor plates. The warrior staggered, roaring in fury before collapsing into the sand. The arena exploded with noise. Some shouted in outrage, others cheered wildly. The Queen rose from her throne, her expression unreadable as she gazed down at Daniel. The nurse hurried to his side, helping him to his feet. Her eyes shone with pride. "You stood. You fought. You are mine, and they see it now." Daniel's legs shook, but he managed a crooked smile. "Guess I didn't die after all. That's progress." The Queen raised her hand, silencing the crowd. "The trial is ended. The rebels are broken. The human has fought with courage, if not grace. His bond with my nurse stands. She looked directly at Daniel, her gaze piercing. But know this, human. You have won a place among us. Yet victory makes enemies. More will come. Choose wisely what you do with this bond. For it now binds more than just two souls. Daniel's stomach tightened. He wanted to celebrate, but the weight of her words pressed heavy. This was no longer just a joke or an accident. It was a choice, one that would shape his future. As the crowd roared again, the nurse squeezed his hand gently. Do not fear. Whatever comes, we face it together. And Daniel realized for the first time that maybe he wasn't just surviving anymore. Maybe he was becoming part of something greater. The arena was nearly empty now, but the echoes of the crowd still lingered in the stone. Fires burned low in the great torches, casting long shadows across the sand. Daniel sat at the edge of the circle, his body aching, his armor cracked, his hands shaking from the battle he had just survived. The nurse knelt beside him, carefully binding the cut on his arm. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she worked. When she finished, she stayed close, her eyes meeting his. You fought well, she said softly. Daniel gave a tired laugh. Well is a stretch. I mostly didn't die. That's about all I managed. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. That is enough. You lived. You proved yourself. He looked at her, really looked at her, under the dim light of the arena. Her hair shimmered like blue flame, her eyes steady and strong. She wasn't just the nurse who had saved him, or the warrior who had fought at his side. She had chosen him, claimed him, defended him even when others wanted him gone. And the truth was, he no longer felt trapped by it. He felt honored. The queen appeared at the edge of the arena, her presence heavy as always. Her guards flanked her, their faces unreadable, but she walked with a slow, deliberate grace. She stopped before them, her gaze sweeping over Daniel and the nurse. The crowd has seen. The law has seen. You have fought and lived. You are no longer just a human lost in our jungle. You are bound to her by word, by blood, and now by battle. Daniel struggled to stand, wincing as he straightened his back. He tried to meet her gaze, though his legs trembled. So, that's it? No more trials? No more tests? The queen's eyes narrowed, though not unkindly. Life itself is trial, human. But for now, yes, it is done. She turned her gaze to the nurse. You have chosen boldly. May your bond serve our people. The nurse bowed her head deeply. It will, my queen. The queen studied Daniel one last time, then turned and left the arena, her cloak trailing behind like a river of stars. Silence returned, broken only by Daniel's heavy breathing. He sat again, dropping onto the sand. The nurse sat beside him, her presence steady and warm. After a long pause, Daniel spoke. You know, when I first said yes, dear, I was just trying to be funny. I didn't think it meant anything. But now, he stopped, struggling for words. The nurse waited patiently, her eyes never leaving his. He finally managed to continue. Now I get it. It wasn't a mistake. Not really. Because I don't want to walk away from this. From you. He gave a small, tired smile. So maybe I wasn't joking after all. For the first time, her composure broke. A bright smile spread across her face, her eyes softening in a way he hadn't seen before. She leaned closer, her voice gentle. Then you accept, truly? Daniel nodded. Yeah, I accept. She touched his hand, her fingers weaving with his, and for a moment, all the chaos and danger of the past days seemed to fade. The bond between them no longer felt like an accident or a trap. It felt like a choice. Later, as the two of them walked out of the arena together, Daniel noticed something different in the eyes of the aliens who watched. Some still glared with suspicion, but others bowed their heads slightly, showing respect. The whispers were changing. He whispered to the nurse, "Guess I'm not just a joke anymore." She squeezed his hand, her smile calm and certain. "No, you are my mate. And together, we are stronger than they ever imagined." The city lights glowed above them, alive with color, as if the world itself acknowledged the bond they had forged. For Daniel, the war, the trials, the whispers, all of it had begun with a careless joke. But what he carried now was no joke at all. It was a vow, chosen freely, stronger than any blade. And as he walked beside her into an uncertain future, he realized that for the first time in his life, he wasn't just surviving a war. He was beginning a new life, one worth fighting for.